Thanks everyone for sticking with us for this last part. There will be beer afterwards, I promise. We're Niklas and Andreas. We're from Squeed as well. And we're here to talk about some new cool spring stuff in November. Yeah, anyway, it's in Kotlin. So we've been dunking the donuts in the Kotlin Kool-Aid, so to speak, at Devoxx these last few weeks. And there were some interesting things. Some of you might know it already. This is going to be about Spring 5. Sorry, Spring 5, Spring Boot 2, and Kotlin. And Andreas.
Yeah, sure. There are some new stuff or some highlights for Spring 5. First of all, for all you who are still doing working in Java 7, you will basically have some problems because Spring 5 is Java 8 and upwards. So if you don't have a good reason for changing to Java 8 yet, then perhaps this is it.
Definitely. Kotlin, it's your shit. Okay.
And alongside that, there is also now a change over to Jackson 2.9 and as well as yeah, never mind. At least Jackson 2.9. And then we also have this new thing called WebFlux, which is basically the reactive streams API of Spring 5. And as we heard before, we already heard what reactive streams are, but in short, basically it's non-block. It's basically avoiding blocking the requests going into the server.
More speed.
More speed, less resources, hopefully. And then the main star of this talk, Kotlin support. And mainly the focus will be the functional API or DSL that they have included. That's basically letting you it basically lets you, instead of doing your controllers, you will basically configure this using routers instead. Yeah. And yeah, we will see exactly how that works later. Yeah.
So basically, if anyone is sort of, at least have historically been uneasy with all these annotations and stuff that does magic stuff in Spring and shit, why doesn't my stuff work? This is at least a tiny bit in the right direction.
Yeah, now instead of doing it with annotations, you can actually do it programmatically.
Yeah, in a domain-specific language.
Yeah.
Almost as bad as CQRS. Yeah. Ooh.
And cool. I forgot to say it, but JUnit 5 is also supported in Spring 5.
And Spring Boot 2 as well, we promised.
Yeah, Spring Boot 2 as well. So the highlights there are, well, support for Spring 5.
Yeah, it's an auto-configuration library. No surprises really there, right?
But to mention a couple of things, yeah, basically HTTP 2 support.
Yeah, that we heard from JDK as well.
Yeah, and then the new JSON starter as well. Mm. And yeah, and a lot of more stuff is coming. I mean, they haven't even released this officially yet.
Yeah, so basically it feels like they're piggybacking a bit as well from the JDK. Yeah, we have HTTP 2. Yeah, JDK has that as well. You're so cool. You're doing the same shit your platform does. Okay.
Yeah, but in order to basically get this demo started, we will need to go through a bit about the basic Kotlin stuff.
Yeah, just so we won't scare off.
Or everyone Kotlin experts?
Yeah, anyone here actually used Kotlin before? Oh, okay.
A few. Hmm? Yeah, so basically, Kotlin is a bunch of fun because the functions start with fun. So here we see the function sum, which basically takes two integers and return an integer. And this is more or less same as Java, just they flip the orders of some things.
Yeah, if anyone's done Scala or TypeScript or such, it's very similar.
And then you have inference. So basically, you don't have to specify your types when you declare your variables. And you don't even have to use semicolons if you don't want to. But of course you can if you want. What we also can see here is that we have something called var, and we also have something that's called val. So basically the difference here being var is mutable while val is immutable. And then it's null safe. So Kotlin is null safe, and yeah, but of course you can still have things that might be null, but then you need to use the Elvis operator, which is this question mark right here.
Yeah, so like string, kinda, I think, might be null. Makes more sense when you write it, yeah.
And then the class definition. Basically what's new or what's different here is that you insert your basically class variables in when you declare it. And what you get for free here is that if you have a val, then you get the getter for free. If you have a var, you get both the getter and the setter alongside the constructor.
Yeah, so that's all you need to do to get a class that has an immutable variable with a getter and an instance. I mean, you can instantiate it. It looks pretty weird, but it's cool.
And then you also have some nice help functions like listoff that gives you a list of the elements that you've declared inside. And what's notable here is that we actually return a value. So we're not returning a variable, which means that the list is actually immutable and we can't even add or remove stuff from it.
Yeah, so it's not just final, as in you can't change the reference. That's what you get. And
no checked exception. So every exception happens runtime, or every exception is a runtime exception.
or bad, depending on how you check your exceptions and stuff. But it's cool, yeah. All right, so if anyone got the hint by the fonts, we're going to use a demo, and it's going to be at least some bit about movies. So to start you off, I'll show you what a main function looks like. Or it's bored. No, it's right. So everything you have to do, in this case, is, okay, you don't get away from any annotation, but that's my application. Then the way you write statics and stuff in Kotlin is just you write something at the sort of package scope. So it's outside of the application. It looks very weird. But this one actually runs and works, I promise.
Or we hope it runs.
Yeah, we'll see later, I promise. So it takes in your normal stuff. This is not var args stuff here. You take in an array, and then you pass it with a sort of array operator. So this is sort of the Kotlin way of just starting your application. Nothing cool, nothing really new, except it looks very weird. Where it gets cool is when you come into the actual setup of what's my application actually going to expose. You have something called a router function, and this is the new DSL. It's just in Kotlin at this point. You have some cool new stuff in Java as well, being able to define this as sort of a builder. But this looks nicer, and it's Kotlin, so let's stick to this. Basically, you have nested scopes. So the first thing you have around this entire stuff here, router, and then you say a bunch of functions inside it. All of these are nested scopes. So you can see that the app, if you do something with JSON, you send an accept JSON header. Do all of these things. These apply. Okay, we have something that's a director, so you can just get stuff at this point. It's not important. It's not a complete example. Anyway, you can list the directors and you can find them by an ID. You have the movies. You nest it there as well. You can get all movies. You can find one movie. You can post new movies. You can delete movies, whatever you want. And here are some hints about things that are coming up next, like notifications and printing out stuff and shit. So that was the router function. Then perhaps you saw in the end that we had these different handlers. They're called handle functions. And handler is a terrible word, but it is what it is. Anyway, so these things, it's a basic component. It just takes the repository for movies and the Markdown converter, just some things there. And I list some things that I can do in a reactive manner. So find all, okay, I take in a request, nothing new there. I send back a server response.ok with a body that contains the all the movies from the movie repository. I can find one with some clever mapping here as well. I can sort of use Markdown in my stuff as well. But basically, this only finds a movie. I can save, I can delete, I can get notifications, and everything is fun. Okay. So, since this is reactive, we can go to the movie repository. Oh. And it does like nothing. It's like empty. But this is more like how it's been traditionally. So some of you who've worked with this might not be too surprised. It's a repository, but it's a reactive CRUD repository. Very big difference. That only means really that, okay, so I can sort of generate events and have these streams on all these cool stuff coming out. And what it does is, okay, so I can sort of tail, which means I can go to the end of this thing and just get the things that are coming out that I don't know of already. Okay, and this is done in something called a flux. Now this is where it gets a bit weird. Flux is a stream. That's the WebFlux, the whole thing in Spring. And then you have the corresponding thing which send one single. It's called mono in this, just because, well, we don't want to reuse all the terms. People might get confused or not get confused if we use the same. You know, we're cooler than that, so we need something else. Okay, so that goes all the way down from a request down to the database. Wow, yeah, okay, I can do some CRUD on movies. Cool. Not really. When it gets weird is really I can have a movie released event listener. Okay, so basically this one as well, since we're running this on reactive MongoDB, which is embedded in the application. You don't know that yet, but it is. I can also subscribe for some after save events. So whenever I sort of put in a movie in the database, I can react to these things, and I can save something with the movie released event. And as these things might suggest, I can also subscribe to this and get type of notifications or similar. So basically, you've seen a bunch of code now. One thing you haven't seen is a new way of doing beans. Like if I want to actually show stuff, I can do this with a DSL as well. It's very similar to the router function. You don't do the nesting in the same way. You use something called a ref here to get other things. Like if I have something that's already defined in a bean somewhere else, I can get stuff and just use them inside. And also I could type in several more beans if I wanted to as well in this. All I need to do is make sure I can find it again. So there are pros and cons to doing this. I mean, you can probably say that I have several beans definitions the same way as you would with annotations. This gets it all together. For routers, I think it's quite neat because you can see everything that your application, or at least your part of the application, does in one space. For beans, it might be nice. It might also just, well, if I have a library, I'll get stuff in anyway from the side, so.
Yeah, but it's an option if you really don't like annotations.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's all the way. Ah, it's here. Now, of course, we're going to want to have a running example. And how do you do that from here?
This is the time that you cross your fingers.
Ooh, stuff starting up. I could have started from command line as well. Well, doesn't matter. We'll start stuff up so you can see how it actually looks. Come on, run. Oh, it's refreshing so much shit. Um, on my machine it is.
The magic words were uttered,
Yeah.
so...
But well, to give it some credit, well, it's starting some reactive MongoDBs and stuff in the background here. Now it should be up.
And we have movies.
Ooh, movie list, so advanced, yeah.
But where did we get these movies from?
Yeah, no one knows, really. It's it's a list of good movies, or at least semi-good movies. Yeah, I only see
Stop.
one there that's sort of
I don't
odd.
remember hearing about Blubberella.
Yeah.
And I see the director, Uwe Boll. I don't think that's a good movie, Niklas.
Yeah, well, I think this speaks in favor. I mean, an overweight woman whose footsteps cause explosions. That it can't be a bad movie.
I think it can.
Okay, yeah, sure. So if we wanted to do some stuff then with the application we already have, what could we do? We could...
Let's filter out the bad movie, perhaps. Create
Okay.
a good movie endpoint.
Create a good movie, okay, sure. What would that look like then? First of all, we would have to go into our router function. Cool. So that would be under movies, right?
Yeah, that sounds like a good place to put it.
But this is actually not, you don't have to filter it all the way down. I mean, this is just a listing of HTML stuff. We could just do the list as well here and say that we have something here which is just the good movies listing, so we don't have to actually remove the stuff from the database or filter all the way down.
No, I mean, sure, the movie is still made, so let's just let's just hide it.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Don't change history. That was a topic somewhere I heard, yeah. In some cases, maybe Blubberella might be an exception to that. Okay, so what do you want to do? We want to have something that's good, right? Okay, so good movies. Find all. Yeah, what can we do? We can do a filter function, perhaps, that says if not this stuff. Well, we said, do we want to filter on movie titles, or do we? No.
I mean, does anyone think that Uwe Boll has made a good movie ever? Does anyone think that Uwe Boll will make a good movie in the future? I think we can remove Uwe Boll.
Okay, so what we did here is something we haven't told you about, but it's magic. You have these cooler lambdas. You no longer have to do the parentheses and the arrow and the cool stuff. You just have to do some seagull wings and write stuff in between, and you can call it, whatever it is that comes in.
Is that also a movie reference?
Yeah, could be, depending on your sentiments on lambda functions in Kotlin. But okay, so we can filter out the ball movie stuff. What else? We need to... We haven't shown...
I mean, let's try to add a movie just before.
Okay.
Because I think that you mentioned something about the notification showing up.
I did, right? So if I do this...
Even worse than Blubberella. I'm scared.
You are. Did you get any notification? Did you see it? No?
I didn't.
Did I do something bad? Let's do it like this. Is it? It's coming up on some other screen, I think. That's odd. Okay. But it's doing so much weird stuff. Why is it doing that? Never do live coding, people. It's bad for your mental health.
They can probably fix it in post.
Cool. Come on. Yes. Yeah. Well, you can sort of take your pick. If you have Java, which is sort of the baseline, no one should do worse than Java because then that would be bad. And then you have Scala, which is okay. Yeah, we are hugely into functional programming and we like advanced stuff over here. So you Java newbies will never understand what you're doing. Okay, sure, fine. And obviously I don't understand Kotlin either, so I am just another Java noob. Anyway, then in between you have Groovy and you have Kotlin, which are, I'd say, if you have sort of a function of advancedness, you have Java on one scale, which is it's your baseline. It's good. It's doing what it can do reliably. You have Scala on the other hand, which is quite advanced, has loads of fancy stuff for doing stuff no one needs, maybe, but it's very good as well. And then in between, you have sort of two competing things, which is Groovy and Kotlin. And Groovy is obviously more tried in that it's been around for longer. Kotlin is made by some KGB crew in St. Petersburg, so obviously it's good.
So it's Scala for dummies?
Basically, yes. And I mean, if you're really into conspiracy theories, you might say that it's sort of the gateway drug to Scala. What's up with this? I ran it 2 minutes ago. Okay. Okay. Did I do it right? I didn't, right? Well. Anyway, okay. So this is very cool and advanced. Obviously, I'm not going to be able to keep you for longer. I think beer is much cooler than watching me trying to compile this stuff over and over again. What was supposed to happen anyway is that you get the reactive notifications from the database.
I've seen them.
Yes, I've seen them as well. That's what irritates me. And terribly sorry I can't show them for you. They're very nice.
Very standard.
Yeah. I can promise you I can fix them later though. Anyway, this is more to get a feel of what Spring 5 Spring Boot does for you if you know your stuff, and obviously I don't. So we'll leave it at that. Some other cool stuff with Kotlin, instead of doing just this, is it has, you know, all these string equals stuff. No longer an issue. You just do double equals and it works. If you do triple equals, it works as well. Damn you JavaScripters. That's the reference stuff. You have string template built in, so you don't have to work with string builders or string joiners or whatever you want to call them in Java. Also quite nice.
And also, as we see here,
you don't see. I'll
okay.
increase
Make
the font
it a bit
for
bigger
you.
then. In Java, if this were have been Java, basically our class would have been package private or package protected. I mean,
Yeah.
whereas in Kotlin, this is public.
Yes. So it's also very, all your base are belong to us defaults. KGB, yes, you're very nice, we like you. Also, all the classes are by default closed for extension. Very weird. It's one of those things you've often heard, that you should be open for extension but closed for modification. Here, well, let's just be closed. You have to type stuff in manually if you want them to be able to be changed later. I don't know why, really. It's odd, but I'm sure they have a good reason. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Mm. All right. Well, anyway, I promised you beers. So
Can we really deliver on that?
well, I can say
You can
that
point them in the right direction.
I'll be
I
there.
guess.
I'll be there if you want to pour one on me for not being able to compile the demo correctly. We'll be at Bishop's Arms, just across the street. And if there are any other questions about Kotlin or the other stuff we weren't able to show you correctly, please feel free. Yeah. Yeah. Well, it took long on my machine, but no, I haven't actually seen any comparison of it. I haven't looked that far into it, so maybe there's anyone who's been using it more than me who can tell. But no, I don't know. What's good though is that it's, of course, since it's a JVM language, it's 100% compatible with Java code. So if you have something in Java and want to just sort of experiment with some of these things, you can just write stuff in Kotlin on the side, call it from Java, and call it back, and it should work.
And you don't need to use any specific syntax. I mean, you just use the Kotlin syntax in order to call
Yeah,
the Java
you don't
code.
have
So,
to
I mean,
use
you don't really notice if you call Java code.
Yeah, you don't have to use the handler and the router functions in Spring. It's just overkill. All right. So thank you for us.